Hey everybody, what's up? Thanks for joining us for the first ever Raincat podcast. My name is Brian Lamar.
And I'm Jeff Coulter. We sat down with Abby Owens in the studio. We had a really awesome chat. But before we get into that, here's a song previously unreleased by her called Synthetic Smile. Enjoy.
Trust is so easy to do. If you've never had a broken heart, love is the most beautiful thing, proven to be a mental illness. Ooh, and I know where to go if I wanna have all of these things. So let me know where to go, pretty baby, so I can put it on for a while. Synthetic smile. Synthetic smile. Touch is so comforting if it's not busy making shiders. Ooh, sex is sort of like a drug, unless you've ever done drugs, yeah. Ooh, and I know where to go if I wanna find all of these things. So let me know when you're home, pretty baby, so I can put it on for a while. Synthetic smile. Synthetic smile. Ooh la la, ooh la la, ooh la 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 la. You are a nice fit sometimes, in between my water retention. Oh, and I can be a nice surprise. Here I am, I'm hiding beneath your window. Ooh, and I know where to go if I wanna have all of those things. So let me know when you're home, pretty baby, so I can put it on for a while. See, and I know, ooh, where to go, pretty baby, if I wanna find all of these things. Let me know when you're home, pretty baby, so I can put it on for a while. Synthetic smile. Synthetic smile. La, 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 la. Synthetic smile. La, la, la.
Okay.
Get my car up on that tow truck, man.
I certainly hope so, man. Right? I gotta get to work in the morning.
That's really funny.
All right, cool. Well, that was good. I think we're all sound checked and everything.
I'm happy if you guys are.
Yeah, this is sounding good. So, we're here with Abby Owens at Raincat Recording Studios for our first ever episode of our podcast.
Yo.
Welcome, Abby.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm Jeff Coulter. I'm here with Brian Lamar.
That's me, Brian Lamar.
Excellent. So, we wanted to start kind of with a funny question because we follow you on Facebook and whatnot, and you have like 1,000 dogs.
Your fur children. Let's get into your fur children.
Well, we could talk about that for an hour for
Okay,
sure.
perfect.
I have 5
Okay,
Russells.
podcast 2. We'll get into the music. Podcast 1, fur children.
I have 5 Jack Russells.
All Jack Russells.
They're all Jack Russells, and they're all related.
They're all
That's
from
cool.
the same letter?
That's
Yes.
really cool, though.
Yes, I have the grandmother and her son. So the grandmother's name,
multi-generational. Wow.
it's Bailey is the grandmother. She gave birth to Skillet, who is the father of the 3 puppies that I have, Sinker, Belle, and Phoebe.
Good names.
Yeah, Sinker, he fell in a sinkhole when he was a baby.
Oh.
That
Yeah.
sounds terrible. But I
glad
mean,
he-
he's still
Yeah,
alive.
It's pretty
It worked out
scary.
okay,
I
yeah.
yanked him out, yeah. It was like the hole was deeper than my arm, so yeah.
Did he totally get covered?
He was totally covered. We were in Georgia at the time, and my backyard had a lot of rain, but pretty thick grass. You know, we had a pretty healthy yard, and it's kind of like a drainage kind of like pipe under the grass and in the yard that we didn't know about that kind of, went to the far corner to kind of drain off probably from the road. And I guess as it got pretty rainy, it just kind of caved in little tiny holes, just probably like big around as a little small dinner plate, like a dessert plate.
Just collapsed. Like,
Yeah, just completely fell out. And so it was much more open underneath, almost like a tunnel underneath, but you couldn't see it, just a few little tiny holes in the top. But our grass was so thick that the grass grew over the hole, so you couldn't really see the hole.
Oh,
So
wow.
That's
yeah,
terrifying. That's
so
like-
I was like,
Yeah,
in
that's
this,
rough.
Yeah, and so I lived in this 1970s split level, and I'm upstairs, and I used to stick my head out the window and like count the dogs to make sure they were all in the yard. And I counted, and Sinker's the only one with any black on him, and so I look down and I don't see him anywhere, and I hear him crying, and they were still probably 4 or 5 months old. So I go running downstairs and I run out there and I'm running around the yard and I can hear him crying, but I can't find him, and I'm like so confused, And finally I hear the ground crying, and Sinker was in this hole. So of course my first instinct is I kind of freak out a little bit, and I'm like, all right, how am I going to get this puppy out of the ground? I don't know what's down there. I don't know if it's wet. I don't know if he's like swimming. I don't know what's going on.
quicksand or a
Yeah,
well
I
or-
don't know.
yeah.
So I don't know if anybody's a fan of sticking their arm in really dark holes that they can't see in, but it's not really fun. Okay? It's not fun. So I'm in like a yard dress, and so I throw my belly down on the ground and I stick my arm down there all the way to my shoulder, and I can't feel anything but like roots and air. It's
You're very brave.
I was scared shitless, but this is my baby, so I'm
Yeah.
getting him out. And so my arm is like, reaching, and I can see a little bit through my arm, like the sun shining down on the ground, and I see him go by, and I'm like, shit, he's running around out. What is this? Another
Like found
It's
another
a tunnel. He's like,
a
"Ma, I
life."
found a tunnel.
So finally he's like screaming and running, and he sees my hand, and he stands up and like touches my hand, and I was able to scruff him and just yank him out. And he slept the rest of the day. Yeah, he was
Enough of
covered in
adventure for
clay.
one day.
Yeah, he was exhausted. And so it was pretty scary for both of us, but I got him out. So his name is Sinker
From
because of
incident.
that.
Yeah.
Very appropriate.
Yeah.
He was just dog before that.
Yeah. So yeah, I got 5 Russells. They're shorties and they're short haired and they're really well behaved and they're not crazy. And they're actually really lazy. And
That's nice.
Yeah.
I had a Jack Russell one time, and my stepdad at the time called him the Jack Russell terrorist.
we called them that too. Yeah. Terrorism at our house. Yeah.
Are they well behaved as a breed? I've never had one.
I think the first instinct when I tell people that I have 5 Jack Russells is, what the fuck are you thinking? You're insane. Like, why would you ever do that? And I'm thinking, we've had so many in my life. They're really great horse dogs. You can put them on the back of your
Really?
horse. Yeah. And I rode for 17 years. So they were really great for rodeos and stuff because you could just throw them, on your horse and go around with them.
Just like hang out, like side saddle.
Yeah, they
like-
would just ride with you. They're no big deal, and they didn't really bother the horses. So we just always had Russells. And so we've always raised them kind of like children. So we just towed them around with us.
Nice.
And so I think in raising them, spending so much time with them, they just weren't crazy. They aren't yappy. They don't jump. They don't, they get excited when you get home for about 30 seconds. And then, okay, I'm going to
Okay,
go back and
whatever.
lay down, Yeah, they're pretty lazy. They're not insane. Yeah. A lot of people think I'm crazy, though, but ours aren't that way. I don't know why, but they just aren't.
No. Well, that's
Maybe
good.
the family dynamic keeps it in check.
That's
Grandma's
kinda
like,
nice,
Yeah.
yeah.
control your children. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
doing it, Mom.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool that you have like a dynastic family of
Yeah.
dogs. That's-
My ex has the mom of the puppies and one of the boy puppies. We had 4, and so we know where they all are.
Nice.
My best friend Crystal has Skillet's brother, Stewie. So he lives in Georgia, and so they're around. We have a web. Yeah.
Now, that was in Georgia, and I know you have Georgia connections and you live here now, but you were born in Indiantown?
Yeah.
Originally, right?
Yeah. My family had an orange grove out there, Owens Grove on Farm Road, next to the marina.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so my great-grandfather was mayor of Palm Beach for tax assessor for 18 years. He never lost a race. Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was his vacation home on the weekends. He would go out there to there was a cracker house out there. And he would vacation on the weekends to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle. And then my granddad started the orange grove there and planted all the orange trees. And then my dad had it for a while.
Oh, and it was a working orange grove.
It was. Yeah. It isn't anymore. Oh. The bug issue and the pesticide, the profit margin, it cost so much to keep it sprayed that we had so much debt from trying to keep it alive that it was impossible to maintain. But at the time, in the 80s, my brothers and I were born there. We had a little single-wide trailer parked next to the cracker house, and my mom had me at home.
Actually at home? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were born out there, and we didn't get our birth certificates, so we were much older. My mom had to go prove that we were her kids because apparently you're not supposed to have your kids at home and not tell anyone. It's against the law.
Really? Surprise! It seems like it should be your prerogative to do that.
You would think.
It's your kid.
You would think.
They want to keep track of you.
They want to keep track of you. You have to have a
want you
social
on the
security
grid.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that baby's going to pay taxes one day.
Exactly.
Put them on the grid.
Yeah. So, that's where I grew up. I went to Warfield Elementary for a year, and I think the second year I was one of 3 English-speaking children in my first grade class, and because I didn't speak Spanish, my mom put me in an English school in Jupiter.
Oh, okay.
So I was my family didn't speak Spanish, and that's an important language for that area because of the work there.
Oh yeah,
so,
I would imagine, and that'd be tough to get educated in a Spanish classroom.
Yeah. So I was kind of the oddball out, so I had to go to an English school at that point. My mom thought that was best for me. So.
And how long did you live in Indiantown?
I lived in Indiantown until I was about 5 years old, 5 or 6, and then we moved to, I don't know if you're familiar with Jupiter, but do you know where Riverbend is? The park on Indiantown Road right off the turnpike?
Yeah.
You know that park down there where you put in canoes and stuff?
Yeah.
That used to be my house. They plowed it down when we lost the property there.
Get out.
Yeah, and we had an orange grove stand there as well, and orange groves. We had about 300 acres there right off the road, and my dad had a cottage there until they plowed it down whenever Riverbend was revamped. It was probably, 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, well, that's recent.
Yeah, so, my brother was moving all the stuff out when he was in college so they could plow it down. It was really weird. But so we lived there for a while. We had a farm and barrel raced some horses and that sort of thing.
And now, horses, that's a thing that you did. What does barrel racing mean? I mean,
barrel racing is an event in a rodeo where you take a horse and you're timed and you run around 3 barrels on a certain pattern.
Jeff's not familiar with the rodeo.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've never been to a rodeo.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's different. So I rodeoed basically. And I did English equestrian, jumping over fences and stuff like that too. So we had boarding barns.
Dressage? No,
dressage. I did dressage too. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only thing I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that was my childhood, was that area.
And was your family musical? Like, did you grow up doing music, or was that a thing later?
No. My brothers can carry tunes. My dad, he likes to play the harmonica. My mom doesn't sing, but she loves music a lot. So nobody taught me anything. It was just exposure. Yeah. Here, listen to this, listen to this, listen to this. And I can remember, I think the first song I remember singing was I was 3, laying in the bathtub with my ears under the water, singing Alana Miles' Black Velvet when I was little. I don't know if you remember that song. Nice. But yeah, I was in love with Tom Petty from the time I was 5. I used to stare at his record on my mom's piano for hours.
That's true Florida girl.
Yeah. I was in love with him. I was going to marry him for sure. Tom Petty, I'm still,
that's a possibility.
I would change my life for you, just putting it out there.
It's worth it, Tom.
Petty Owens. I like that. I would buy that record. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll take your name, Tom.
Yeah, no.
Did you start playing guitar right away, or are you just singing?
No, when I moved to Georgia is when I decided to play guitar.
Okay, when was that?
I moved to Georgia in 99, so I was in probably 7th grade. Mm-hmm. My mom remarried, and his family had a bunch of land up that way, and we had horses, and we wanted to grow hay and live cheaply, which is much less expensive to live there. And
That's for sure.
My brother stayed here, and I was too young to stay. I wanted to be with my mom, so I went with her. And
Whereabouts in Georgia?
yeah, I moved to Hoboken, Georgia. It's in Brantley County, South Georgia. It's between Waycross and Brunswick. So it's literally maybe an hour and a half or so north of Jacksonville. Not very far. It's about 300 miles from here. And I went to this club on St. Simon's Island called Rafters, and there was this kid playing called Ben Robinson. And he was my age, and he was one of those kid prodigies that were just, I mean, unreal on guitar. He was on, I think, Leto and all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
or Letterman. He was on those shows playing with their bands because he was just so
Doesn't it
outrageously
just piss you
good.
off? I fucking hate that.
Trust me, like, you know.
How old were you at this time?
That was 13. I was 13, 12, 13.
Right.
And so my mom got me in these bars and would take me around to see shows. And, you know, because I was underage, I always had to have her with me. And she would go take me to see live music, which now I'm like, you know, that's fucking awesome that
Yeah,
they
that's
ever
cool.
do that.
Yeah.
And so I saw him, and it's funny, we're friends now, but we didn't reconnect till we were much older.
Oh,
because,
really?
Yeah, because I found him online. I'm like, you have no idea what you did.
You're the reason I play
Yes.
music.
And at the time, I was listening to a lot of Pink Floyd, and I was really obsessed with David Gilmour. So I was like, you know what? I got to go buy a guitar. So I saved up some money, and I went to a pawn shop, and I bought this $90 Squire Electric. Way overpaid for that shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, it was terrible. But I sat, and I wanted an electric, and I sat around, and I think I learned "Wish You Were Here" and "Have a Cigar" and "Shine on You, Crazy Diamond" licks and
Really?
stuff.
That's
yeah,
funny. I
that
would
was the
never have
first.
pegged you for a Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Like for that being your start.
Yeah, when I was 10 or 11, I started listening to that. So that's, you know, for a 10, 11-year-old listening to that, that's pretty heavy.
No, but
Yeah,
when-
that's a lot to take in and
Yeah.
understand or
Yeah.
try to understand at that age.
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. So that was my start of my guitar. And so, you know, looking back now, with it 17, 18 years ago, guitar's been pretty prevalent. And, you know, when you're a singer, you're born with that shit, and you don't realize that learning another instrument would be as difficult as it would be.
you actually have to teach.
You have to actually practice. You know, when you're born with something, you're so jaded, you're so spoiled. And so it took me a long time to really start expressing myself properly on the guitar. I taught myself everything. I got some tips from a bass player who was a mentor, Jason Rosner. He's actually local. He plays with Pangea.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's really amazing.
But no lessons.
No lessons. He sat down with me for like 30 minutes one day and taught me how to read tabs. So I went home and just figured it out, you know.
Good call.
So, so as a result, I have no idea what I'm doing. Someone asked me to play in this key, I'm fucked.
No, but you absolutely know what you're doing.
What I'm doing works for me.
In the key of Abby Owens.
Yeah, in the key of Abby Owens, it works for me. So, yeah.
I think it was kind of a cool thing that, you know, people of our generation were able to teach ourselves like that because we had, you know, access to tools that, you know, we could actually go and just learn how to play our favorite songs rather than learn from some teacher that was going to teach you, you know, notes on a staff and how to do this and these scales. We were able to kind of direct our own teaching, which I think leads to a lot of interesting guitar playing.
I
Which you
think
are definitely one of those.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've actually developed a style, which I thought I never would. But I did study music in high school for voice, and I did compete in, you know, all-state and literary competitions where you know, learn pieces and perform them and whatnot. And I was third in state in Georgia my senior year, and I sang some German and French pieces that I did classical.
Really?
That I
Like
did really
acapella,
well. No, with a pianist
okay, cool.
accompanying me. And so I did learn how to read music. Like if you put me down in front of a piano with some sheet music, I'd be slow, but
Stumble
I could
through it.
figure it out. Time signatures, yeah. And so I remember distinctly going to Allstate, and they ask you to sight read a piece. They actually put a piece of music, give you a note, and go, okay, read this and sing it. Just like it is, a cappella. I laughed and walked out. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Really? I wore these shitty shoes for this shit? Come on.
I thought I was gonna sing. Can I?
Yeah, it was.
Can I sing something?
It wasn't for me. I look at it now and I'm like, God, if I had taken my head on my ass and actually practiced, I probably could have figured it out because I love math. You know, I'm really great at numbers, but for some reason, reading music is really challenging for me. And wasn't something I took a liking to because I'm so rotten with having just a stellar voice all the time.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. But then I listened
What a
to, it is a burden because I listened to people like Joni Mitchell and America and John Fogle, you know, all these people that studied music and were, you know, pretty educated in reading music and learning it the technical way and then applying it in a rock and roll, you know, format. I love that. And like, it's so smart when you listen to that old shit, it's because they understood it and they knew it inside and out and they could actually apply it in a rock and roll stylistic way. It wasn't so technical when you put it that way, but you hear all these crazy progressions and these chord changes, like, I could never do that because I don't know where it is. I can't find it.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that side of it too.
Yeah, I think there's a give and take. I mean, you know, I love Neil Young and I love Neil Diamond, but like there's an intellectual way to look at music and there's a gut way to look at music.
Exactly.
And, I mean, ideally, hopefully, you can try to blend them as much as possible, but you really don't want to go too far and, you know, either way, because otherwise you punk rock or really stupid jazz that nobody wants to listen to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes I envy that though, that I don't have that knowledge. I've kind of toyed with the idea of going to, you know, to study it just to learn it. And I've actually thought about going to sound engineering school because I love turning knobs, but
It is fun.
yeah, I love mixing, but you know, that takes time and effort.
You could just do like we did and, you know, suck at it for 10 years. Until you,
turn it till it sounds good.
yeah, exactly. And then you kind of
Eventually you'll figure it out.
That is what I do every day with my PA when I step into a stage. I'm always asking, like, how does it sound? How does it sound? They're like, you always sound pretty good. I don't know why you're asking. I'm like, because I don't know what I'm doing. I think it sounds good. Does that sound good to you? How about you?
Is there an awesome knob back there? Do you have that?
Yeah. So I'm guessing at half this shit.
Now, I mean, I guess when you do most of your shows around here, you bring your own setup?
Yeah, I play through Fishman.
Yeah, those things are
Those are awesome.
Yeah. I have a Fishman stack 220.
Yeah.
And then I usually, because I like monitors and I actually don't really care for the mixer on the 220 itself. It's got a couple channels on it.
Yeah.
But I like the mixer on the Loudbox Mini. So I use that as a mixing board and a monitor, and I just run that direct into channel 1, and then I run them back through that.
Nice.
That's what I cheat.
Nice. That's actually a
That
good
totally
little hack.
works.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
So my monitor mixes my house mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least you know what you're sending out.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
which
pretty
is
close. Yeah.
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 That's important.
Yeah.
You know.
And I like the reverb on the Box Mini better than the reverb on the stack, so I just turn it off and then I use this reverb, and that's right.
It's the secret to the Abby Owens tone.
That's what I do.
Abby Owens.
Yeah. That's what I do.
So that's Georgia, and now you were in Georgia for your formative music years.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, I just sang when I was here, and I was learning in middle school and performing arts and stuff, but rock and roll, really, I got to express. So the first time I ever sang in a bar was at the Marlin Hotel in Miami. I mean, I sang Whip and Post. It was the first song I ever sang live as a kid.
Good choice.
And I was 11 then, and I was still living here. And so I quickly moved, you know, circumstance.
Yeah.
And then I got exposed to that rootsy shit that's in Georgia. And I lived in Hoboken and Waycross. And I went to this little music store called Crosstown Music that one of my best friends now, Paul Lee, owned at the time. He's my bass player.
Oh, that's cool.
He was also the front of house guy for Leon Russell.
Nice. Yeah, we're definitely going to get back into that.
Yeah. But so I started hanging out there. I used to work at Staples and in town, and so after Staples, I would go over there and I'd just hang out at the music store and just kind of, hey, can I play this guitar? Or can I, you know, just kind of hanging out. And I started meeting other people that were involved, and they kind of took me under their wing and just kind of helped me hone my craft. And they sold me my first Martin guitar that I still try to use. It needs some work right now.
You still got it?
Yeah,
Oh,
Martin
that's cool.
DR. Yeah, I paid like $1,300 for it total with a Fishman stack, like stack knob, pickup custom put on it, and they don't make them anymore. You can't buy just a Martin DR anymore. but-
That's really awesome to have your first guitar. I really
The first, my first real
your first,
acoustic,
like, real
yeah,
one, you know?
yeah. I had a Fender acoustic that I sold. I had an Alvarez that I sold, but the first real like guitar that I wrote my very first song on, I still have.
That's killer.
And yeah, so I started learning how to play, and
Were you playing out at, did you like start getting gigs or playing open mics or something like that? Like,
I played every Tuesday for $40 for about 4 or 5 hours with other musicians. But
child labor law is not so strict in Georgia.
Yeah, it's totally different. You can't make any money doing it around there. And so I slept on someone's couch when I was in my teens and just played once a week on Tuesdays. And I would sit in with anybody who would let me. I would do, just kind of pretty much scavenger my way to, play with people and try to weasel my way in and figure out how things work, in that scene. Because you don't just come out knowing how this shit. There's a certain etiquette. There's a certain thing. There's a certain language you use. You guys know.
Oh, yeah.
And so you just learn. You skin your knees and you learn.
It's tough. I mean, to go into that situation and, look at those guys, that are up there on the stage.
Yeah.
Like that's the scariest thing in the world, to be like, oh my God, I can't wait to be one of those people.
Yeah, and then you
doing
tie
that.
in the alcohol, the drugs, the politics, the drama. There's so much involved with musicians because creative people are so fucking crazy anyway. Yeah. So there's this whole different world, right? So you're just trying to figure out, okay, I know I need to surround myself with people that are like-minded, but am I like them? You're trying to figure that out.
Right.
Yeah, and we're all so crazy in our own ways that nobody's really like each other. But
Right. So
Respect each other's crazy differences.
yeah.
that's the key.
But I quickly learned that I was accepted and pretty well liked and pretty well supported, and other people were excited about what I had. And so that made me go, okay, I can do this, So songwriting just kind of trickled in very slowly. It was very frustrating at first, but yeah. But then it just started coming naturally. And I learned that just because you can doesn't mean you should. Less is more. Keep it simple. And that's how I try to keep it to this day.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
I do.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
That is impressive. Yeah. I've forgotten more than I remember.
Yes. The very first song I'd ever written, and I was kind of late to the game. I was 17. I was about 15 minutes dressed in my Staples uniform. I had my name tag on. I had my pants on. I just got to bring this new Martin home. And I'd been playing for, a few years by now. And I was able to bring this guitar home because I'd paid enough on it that Paul let me take it. Like, nice. He's like, you can take it home today. And I was so stoked. So it's sitting in the corner in my stand. And it's still so shiny and wonderful. And I'm like, okay, I got a few minutes. I'll just, play. So this song came out, and it was this song called "Come to Me, Honey," and it's on my first record, "For the Light Comes."
Okay.
Yeah, and I wrote it in about 10 minutes. That's the first song I ever wrote.
Get out.
Yeah. And I wrote it, and I went to work, and I came back home, and I was like, all right, So that kind of broke the ice. You're like, you figure out the formula, because there's a formula.
Oh, yeah.
And when you listen to that song, formulaically, I don't know if that's a word. It isn't. I just made my own word. It isn't structured like your typical verse 1, verse 2, bridge, chorus and whatever. It's kind of verse, bridge, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, and then it goes away. And so that's because I didn't really know what to do.
Yep. You didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
So you broke them, but screw it.
Fuck it.
Right. That's cool. You kept it the way it was originally written by the time you did your record.
I totally did, which was, 10 years later.
The fact that is the first song you ever wrote just gives me no hope for my.
Wow. Oh, you like that song?
That's a great song.
I've actually had people cover it on other records, which makes me feel really good.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was the first song I ever wrote. Right before I was going to Staples, I was Employee of the Month, my first month working there. Yeah.
Overachiever.
Yeah.
First song.
Yeah.
Got an Employee of the Month.
Yeah.
Bring home the guitar.
I was driving a Buick Riviera.
Life's a dream.
It was. Right? Supercharged. That bitch is fast. Don't you worry.
Buicks, yeah, they have big engines.
Yeah.
Some of them do.
Yeah, that was a muscle car in its day.
And now, did you? Once you were up there, did you come back down here first, or did you? What was your kind of progression of, I guess, to recording your first album?
Okay.
How did that kind of come about?
So a couple of years after that, my roommate at the time, which was Paul, my buddy, he was like, "I'm moving to Athens, Georgia. Fuck it, I'm gonna get out of here." And if you know anything about Athens, Georgia, it's saturated with music.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
I mean.
It's one of those just amazing towns in the middle of it's like a
in the
Austin
water.
or
Yeah.
Asheville or one of those.
Right. Tons of music comes out of there, drive-by truckers, and all that good stuff. And so I was like, well, I'll just go with you. All right. And at the time I was seeing this guy, Vic Stanley, who lived in Macon, Georgia, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of Athens. So I moved to Athens with Paul. I didn't know anybody, and he was doing his own thing. And I was there for 2 weeks. I'm like, this is a drag. It was winter, and I'm not good with winter. Anyway, every time winter comes and I'm up there, I cry for 6 months because I want to go to palm trees. I'm a Florida girl, I don't really care for winter.
It's cold.
It's fucking cold. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to Macon. I want to go be with this guy. So Vic Stanley. And I started working at his bar pretty quickly. He had a really great club called the Hummingbird Stage and Tap Room, which had amazing live music. Some of the best probably in the region.
Still around? That place?
Still rocking. It's on Cherry Street in downtown Macon. And they still have lots of live music. Vic no longer is associated. He sold his portion. But he founded it and built it out and really started the trend for that bar to have top-notch music, because he was a musician himself and really believed in quality music. So he had acts like Peter Case and Jason Isbell and Tony Joe White and Billy Joe Shaver, Charlie Louvin, Justin Towns Earl. We had Driving and Crying. We had everybody.
Really awesome stuff. Yeah.
Really great shit coming through. So I had the opportunity to play with a lot of them, to open for a lot of them, after parties, playing with them, chatting with them. I had known Kevin Kenny from when I lived in Waycross, and he played with Driving and Crying, but he would come through and I would sit in with him. So
it's like, what a great education to have.
I mean, when you're 21 and you're hungry and you want to be a rocker and you want to learn, it's, it didn't hurt that I had really great hair and a nice ass to get on stage and sing with people, but don't you worry.
And a great voice, though, because without a doubt, it doesn't matter if you got up there and you sucked. They would have been like, get this girl.
Well, I've had my XLR pulled out of the back of my microphone more than once in my career.
Really?
By other people, yes. Don't you worry.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's a reality
Ego check. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah. So by living in Macon and the music that came through there, I mean, I ended up opening for Travis Tritt. I ended up opening for Marty Stewart. All these really great big acts that would come through. And
So now that's how you met. And
Okay.
Did you meet Barbie through like Isbell and all those guys?
okay, this is how I met Barbie.
Yeah.
Okay, so after working at the bar for a while, I was really skinning my knees and getting to know on all these people. And Vic knew, my boyfriend at the time, knew David Barbie in Athens. And I was, had sitting on this pile of songs and sent him a tape. And he was like, yeah, come on up and let's record. So scheduled a couple weeks in November of the year that Obama got inaugurated. And we took 2 weeks, and I slept on the floor of Paul Lee's house. And we recorded these songs, the 10 tracks for The Light Comes.
I mean, 2 weeks to do 10 tracks that well that's impressive.
Well, thank you, because they most of them weren't all the way written by the time I got there. Me and Barbie were scooting around. He had sprained his ankle playing wiffle ball behind the studio while we were tracking, so he was scooting around on a roller amp with a stick, going over structural components with me.
The bridge is too long.
Exactly. I remember showing up really early one morning, and he literally stuck a microphone in front of my face as soon as I got there. He said, sing, what is it? All of Me. Sing that right now. And I'm like, I just got up. Just sing it. So I sang that song as soon as I had woken up, probably 6 to 8 times. And he kept the very first track that I did that day. He kept the very first take because he loved that tired sound that I
rawness.
had. Yeah. So we kept that one. Before The Light Comes, the actual title track was recorded years before when I lived in Waycross at a rehearsal. We, a bunch of us sat around. I think Reed Bennett and Paul Lee and me and some other folks were there just rehearsing some songs. And I had just written that one. I was pretty excited about it. So we just set up one mic in the middle of the room, similar to this room. Mm-hmm. And we were all loaded. It was 4 a.m. at the end of the rehearsal, and we just went for it, and it turned out really, really great. And we just dumped that.
That is so cool that worked out. I mean,
yeah. It's one of my favorite tracks on there. If you listen to it, it's the drummer wasn't playing a set of drums. He actually threw a towel over a snare drum and just played it with his fingers.
Wow.
And so that's the drum track for that.
It's just
Makes me want to go back and listen to it knowing it's only on one mic, you
Yeah.
know, and really listen to it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. We were really, really loaded, so you can hear few little fumbles and whatnot there, but for the most part, I think it was the first time I'd ever played with a pick too. I had to use a pick for some reason, and I wasn't really good at using a pick at the time. So it was the first time I'd ever played with a pick.
Do you play with a pick now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do some songs with finger picking, which I enjoy, but in a live setting, it's kind of hard,
It's hard
unless
to
it's a
communicate the
listening
energy.
room.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a slow song and people are silent and it's a listening room, I'll use my fingers. But other than that, I do pick work most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. That's just one of those things that you know, no matter how many times you probably tried to do that in a studio, just set up one mic and get 4 people around it
Yeah.
to sing it, you probably never could have gotten that performance. You know,
Special
As
moments
good.
happen, which makes
They
you
really
want to
do.
keep a mic on all the time.
all the time. That's the
Yeah.
dream, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So from there, when I lived in Macon, though, I also, from Jason Isbell coming through, we were at an after party that he had played the theater and had his after party at the bar. So we locked the doors and had an after party, and I was hanging out, and we were talking, and I got on stage. He was playing acoustic just for fun, him and Broen Lawler, and which was his guitar player at the time, who now plays for St. Paul and the Broken Bones. But we were all sitting around playing, and so I got up and played a couple songs that I'd written. I think I played "It's Already Changed" and some other stuff I'd done on the Barbie record, and he loved it, and he just invited me out of nowhere. Hey, come to my house in Sheffield, Alabama. Let's do a record. So I'm like,
Yeah, okay.
a little starstruck at the time. I was like, well, okay, you know, of course,
Right,
You know,
yeah.
Jason
I
Isbell-
fit it into my schedule.
Yeah,
you know,
asking me.
Pretty busy.
So I slept in Jason Isbell's house, crashed there. We recorded Indian Town, which was 6 tracks at the Nut House studio there in Sheffield, who actually got nominated for a Grammy this past year. I think he probably won as well.
Yeah, how far apart were those 2 records?
Actually, only about a year and a half. They were released at the same time because I had
wow,
them
that's
released for the
interesting.
Lycoms. Yeah, so I had them both mastered and released at the same time through just disc makers and iTunes, but they were all available for sale at the very same time.
Huh.
Yeah. So I spent 2 days on Indian Town,
Really?
and I was drunk the entire time. I had so much Jack Daniels.
a good start.
Yeah. But the studio was literally right across the street. You could look out Jason's window in his apartment upstairs, and you could see the studio door. So we would just, sleep, get up. He would chain smoke in his living room. I would stare at the guitars on the wall. We'd go over some songs. I'd kind of nervously, twitch, hoping he didn't see my dandruff, weird shit. And we got to know each other, and we shot some pool. We did some pool shooting, and went in the studio. And he and I played all the instruments there. I played one of his guitars, a little hollow body that he had. He played a B3 Hammond that he turned way up, and that weird growl on the bottom of "Don't Want You Around" is a B3 turned way the fuck up.
Nice.
And he played a little Mexi bass that was handmade, weird, like mariachi Mexi bass.
It was just you 2.
It was just he and I, and then the engineer, Jimmy Nutt, actually played drums. So we had him do drums on one track,
Nice.
but there was no drums anywhere
Yeah.
else. And so we did it in 2 days.
That's killer.
Yeah, and I was there for probably a week or so hanging out. But
How was it like working with him? Is he real hands-on? Did he, help you with the song structures or anything like that?
I mean, we became buddies, and the same scenario like Barbie. Some of that stuff wasn't finished when I showed up. I said, "This is what I got," and then we just kind of went with it, or he would just kind of coax me to finish it, and I would just finish it real quick, and then we'd go and record it.
Just immediately.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty easy.
Yeah.
So it ended up being really easy to work together. We became buddies, homies. It was
Home
good.
slice.
Yeah, we were homies. And so that's the kind of what prompted him to call me later to come record on his record, Here We Rest.
Yeah.
Because I did so well in the studio. Pretty quickly, I work quickly in the
Yeah.
studio. So it was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I recorded 3 tracks for him, backup vocals, in 40 minutes. I was out of there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what, one take for each one? Or
It took me a couple
Close,
tries because
yeah.
I'd never heard the songs before I showed up. He called
Oh.
me, I showed up, and I'd never heard anything. He's like, "Oh, we think you want on this one, this and this one." I was like, "Okay, let's do a few times and then just hit record."
Yeah. No, you're quick. We've only recorded you once when you did backup for Sean Major that one
Right,
time.
right.
And that was about
quick.
10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
Like, okay. Well,
Just tell
I
me
think
what
we
you
got
want.
it.
It's mostly the only thing I have to learn is time. How long on each word and how you phrase a word, because I'm really good at mimicking people. So I listen to how you say words and I just form it exactly. So it almost sounds like yourself, but it's me.
Which is a real
But it's me.
It's honestly a lost art, because it used to be when you did two singers together, you would be right there at the same mic,
Right.
looking at each other,
Right.
forming the words together, and you could
Watching
really
the
kind of
instinct
be there.
movement. Yep.
But I mean, nowadays with Pro Tools, it's so much after the fact, and it's really hard to get those performances that are so tight and like glue like that, like they need to be for.
Yeah. I'm a
especially
pro
for-
at that stuff.
Well, you're just good.
I pride myself on studio work. I'm available for sessions. For booking, call.
Yeah, we'll flash your number right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, what's the timeline there in terms of when you move back to Florida?
Well, I would say, I think it was about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I came home. At the time, I wasn't playing music anymore. Things just kind of fizzled out for me emotionally where I was. I was kind of worn out. I didn't really know how to book myself. I ran out of management. I ran out of money. I never really got... Indiantown did good on the radio for Americana. It was one of the top 5 ads, but it never really went anywhere. And it's because I didn't have money for marketing, and I didn't know... I don't understand business as an artist. I mean, I create. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm really good at listening to shit and knowing what to do with it.
That's why they have-
know? Yeah. Do I know how to? I probably should have taken a credit score class. I don't know. It's like.
That's why they have guys for that. It's a whole different skill set. You
And
can't-
nowadays, like we were talking about outside, it's like, independent artists pretty much have to be badasses at all all parts of their career to be functional on their own, unless you want to outsource and pay everybody.
Right.
If you don't have money, then what do you do?
You got to be a Renaissance woman.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
a
do
new
everything.
it's a new game for sure, because no one's going to do it for you, and I find even if you try to find good representation, it's almost harder to get with a good team than to get someone to make you a record sometimes.
Nobody wants to invest anymore because the return is so scary. Are you going to get it or are you not? Are they going to get it? Is everyone else going to understand what you understand, what you like? It's fear.
Yep.
Right.
So-
and
Yeah.
the sales aren't there, I mean, when you lose like 75% of your revenue source, which is what happened to the record business.
Online sales, yeah.
Right.
They don't buy records anymore. They buy tracks. Yeah.
Right.
Singles.
Right. Which is a whole nother thing, because people aren't listening to records from the beginning to the end, which is how, to me, a record's really meant to be
It's a
listened
story
to.
in its entirity, right?
Right.
Yeah, a group
Right.
of songs that are relative to one another.
It's a journey, from the beginning to the end.
I agree. And
Right.
it's just kind of forgotten about. But so I was at a point in my career where I didn't really know what to do. And I'm like, I'm worn out in this relationship. I'm worn out where I'm at. I started an LLC and I was going to open up a restaurant to sell bread because I'm a really great baker. So I was selling bread at a market in Macon every week. I made, $250, $300 a week making bread out of my house.
That's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I was actually about to open a restaurant, and
It's quite the checkered past.
I can do all kinds of shit. You have no idea. And so I woke up one morning. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't open a restaurant. I can't stay in this relationship because I feel like it's not serving me anymore. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I'm running from, but I'm gonna fucking run. I'm out of here. So I didn't even tell anybody I was leaving town. I called my family. They were up the next day with a U-Haul. We packed everything in my house while my boyfriend was out of town. He had no idea. He came home to nothing. And I left.
Peace
Like
out.
that. Overnight, I came back home. Hadn't been home for, 10 years or something like that. However long I was gone. And it was scary as fuck.
I
But
would imagine.
it's what I had to do. I didn't know why I was running, but I just ran. And certainly didn't understand what I wanted as an adult. I had just lost a couple dogs through a tragic accident at my house. And so I was really going through some PTSD stuff where couldn't sleep, really traumatic experience that I had, seeing the things that I saw, So a lot of shit was going on in my life where I was just like, you got to go home. You got to go home.
Right. Too
Go
much,
the
like
fuck home.
overload.
Go be with your mom, go be with your dad, go be with your brothers. As much as you argue and fight with them and whatever, you got to go home.
You got to reset.
So I slept on the floor of my brother's apartment with my mom. She had a bedroom and my brother had a bedroom, but I slept on the floor on a futon in Stuart, Florida for almost 8 months in the living room in front of the TV. And I enrolled myself in school because I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go get a degree so I have a plan B. I'm going to make a life. I'm just going to do whatever I need to do. And so that's what I did so that I would stay.
Yeah.
Right.
I never intended to come back to music. Ever.
Really? You would totally written it off.
Fuck it. It's not helping me. Yeah.
Wow.
I've been told no. I mean, I was flown up to New York City when I was 15, 16 years old, and Universal Music Group had me audition for the entire staff, and they looked at me and said, "You're too fat." They sent me home. So through all those experiences of
One at a time, yeah. I mean, you've been
Can be
courted
more
around like several times, it seems, by big
big
companies.
labels. I've showcased for I'll name them, but it's a lot, and they've all said no. And so at that point, I had been told no by Universal. I had been told no by Chad Kroeger flew me around the country because he had a label called Mountain View Records he wanted to sign me to. Which, whatever, he just would take me out to dinner and buy everything on the menu and talk about how he loved anal sex, and I just wasn't down for that. So...
Way to go, Chad Kroeger.
Whoa. So he was nice. He was nice. I'm going to say he was nice because it's on the air, but it was kind of strange. And
Sounds a little weird.
It's cool. People like Nickelback.
it was weird. And they wanted to give me a demo deal. And at the time, I was like, I don't want a demo deal. And, this is all while I was living in Macon that this shit was happening,
Yeah.
that I was flying. I was flying to L.A., and I was flying to Vancouver to Chad Kroeger's house in Abbotsville. I was flying to New York City, auditioning for, what is it? Universal Music Group. Island Def Jam, Columbia. I showcased for Razor and Tie. All by the time I was 20, I had showcased for all those people, and they'd all told me no.
Really?
Yeah.
That is a whirlwind. I mean, that's
That's
gotta
so
be,
young to be
yeah.
doing that, because
And
I
they
couldn't
tell you
imagine.
that you're fat. And this is before, I'm not going to say names, but other artists that are really prominent now who are overweight, you would say by statistically,
Before it was a thing. Yeah.
I
Right.
was heartbroken because I'm like, okay, I'm not huge. I'm not like a roly-poly fatso.
No.
I got thick legs because I rode horses for 17 years, and I ate my Wheaties. Fuck off.
The fact that anybody would say that you're too fat, like that's unbelievable
Yeah,
to me. Like,
it's like, what are the standards? It's absurd. You're hiring musicians, not models. Like, come on.
What is it
You know?
about?
And also, and that's another thing with the way things are nowadays. It's so much image. Like it's as much image as it is the music.
Yeah.
And back when the internet and everything wasn't so prevalent, you would form this idea of maybe what the musician looked or sounded like, or how they were a lot of times from their music. You might see some album pictures or whatnot, but you're not going to see the branding shoved down your throat.
Right. Right.
So,
So I went home and I wrote it off. I went home and I wrote it off, and I said, you know what? This is dragging me through the dirt, and it's not worth it to me. So I put my guitar up, and I would bring it out and I'd write little songs here and there just to kind of deal with what I was going through with separation from the relationship I was in and trying to break away from that. And, I started going to school and I studied at Indian River for, I guess, a year and a half.
What'd you go for?
and this was
Nursing.
Really?
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's always jobs in that field here
You
in
already
sunny
knew
Florida.
you already knew how to do dressage and farm oranges and bake bread and play
Exactly.
music.
I
So,
figured
Nursing.
why not clean somebody's shit out of their butt crack for them when they can't roll over.
And
Seems
this
like
was
a
a
great
few
idea.
years ago,
Yeah.
right?
And then I met the guy that I'm with now, Dave McLeod, and he was friends with my brother for a long time. And we were friends long before we started dating, but he started asking me, well, if you want some extra money or whatever, just come work with Vince. You can help me with Vince. You worked in horses and stuff. You're strong enough. You can lift some concrete, right? I'm like, fuck it, yeah. At the time, for side work, I was working for landscapers. I was carrying those backpacks and spraying pesticide on driveways and shit all day. So
That's
I was
tough work.
already, so I was already doing that. And I was like, well, sure, more money, $12 an hour, I'll go haul some concrete. So I started working in fencing. And one day he looked at me and he was like, if you want to be a fence installer, you know, I'll just give you your own tools and teach you how to install by yourself. But otherwise, I think you should probably go down to Terra Firmata and play the open mic.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to. Open mic is for people who don't know how to play shows.
Right.
Open mic is for people who, you know, are starting out.
For the record, thank you to that dude. That's a really
And
good
he
call.
literally took me there, and when I got there was a drum circle. I'm like, I'm not playing with a drum circle. And he's like, you're getting your fucking ass on stage and you're playing. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified.
How long had it been since you had played
A couple years since I'd
in
done
public?
a show.
Wow. I wonder. And who was there the first time? I can't remember the first time we met.
That's the
you.
first time
mean,
I ever saw you was at Terra Firmata open mic.
Yeah, I could tell you, I think I was wearing a purple zip-up hoodie. I can remember. I know I played Jackson Brown these days.
Yep, I love that.
I
love it when you
wonder.
play
I
that
wonder
song.
if were we there?
Possibly. I mean, I definitely remember the first time seeing you was at Terra Firmata open
Yeah.
mic, and I've heard you play that song a couple times, and it always just like stops me on the tracks. But I
Yeah.
remember the first time I ever heard you, it literally was one of those open mic moments that happens once in a while when like everybody's, you know, good and doing their thing and everybody's just kind of like talking and having beers, and then literally everybody shuts up and it's just like,
Like holy shit.
what the fuck is going on right now? Like that was definitely, I vividly remember that.
I was scared. I was really scared, and I had a huge ego, and I had my head up my ass, and I was really spoiled, and I was bitter, and all those emotions that were really ruling my mind. And he pushed me to get up and do it. And from that moment on, I ran into Ryan Owens, who, gosh, I'm so grateful for him because he literally gave me a gig the next day.
Nice.
And,
Ryan, yeah, I bet he did. I bet he
Yeah.
did. You met everyone. They were like, "Yeah, you sing
you
now.
come,
That's
do
what you
this."
do."
And it was like a whirlwind of support around me, and it kind of makes me teary-eyed talking about it because I didn't think I deserved it at the time. I was really, really I felt awful. I felt really awful where I was. I was at the bottom, and so it was a huge boost for me to get so much love. And I remember coming off stage and Jonathan saying, "What? Who are you?"
Right.
I actually had a meeting, I think, with them, and Samantha was still working for them the next day, and she was like, so, wait a minute, I researched you, and you're so-and-so, you're on this record, right? Wait a minute. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, what are you doing here? And I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing here? What's wrong with here? Like,
We
well,
would have booked you a show.
yeah, well, yeah, I didn't understand because I had accomplished so much that I didn't know I had accomplished anything. I didn't feel like I'd done anything. And so all these people were kind of wrapping their arms around me and threw me into the 3-hour cover scene, you know, around here, which I really like doing. It's improved my guitar playing substantially.
Right? Talk about going to the woodshed. I mean, playing 3 hours every night.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah, it'll make you better.
Yeah. And so that's when I started playing more, was coming back home and then falling into that scene. Not by choice. It was really just by like, you know what, fine, I'll just fucking do it to humor everybody else who's been riding my ass to book shows and not work construction. Fine, you know.
Yeah, I'll play a show here and there.
Yeah, I did it. And then it just kind of grabbed me. And, you know, I met you guys and met everybody here, and it's been really great since I've been here. And since I've been here, you know, I wrote some songs, and this last year alone, I was working with Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
I played for New West. I played for Black River. I played for Atlantic. I played for, oh gosh, I can't remember who else.
Well, before we get too deep into that, no, I mean, we came like that kind of all, as far as I kind of understood it from, you know, knowing you a little bit and then getting to know you better, it seems like that all kind of came from that, at least started to re-happen with that one song that you released.
Yes, after playing
It was Love Like That Again.
Love Like This Again,
Love Like
yeah.
This Again, sorry.
I wrote it on November 11th, 2015. It took me about 6 or 7 hours to complete the track, and I remember waking up that morning, I'm like, you know what? I posted on Facebook, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do 2 things I love today. I'm going to bake some bread, and I'm going to write a song. And I remember looking at Phoebe today, my little Russell, and I'm like, she's my homie. We're spirit creatures together. We coexist in this wonderful world. And I looked at her and I'm like, damn it, we're gonna write a hit today. Nashville's gonna buy it. We're gonna make it, and you're gonna have so many fucking dog cookies. You're not gonna be able to walk straight. It's gonna be amazing.
Get
Just
so
ready.
fat.
Watch. All I need you to do is be quiet for like 30 minutes while I try to record this.
I'm gonna get you all the cookies. All the cookies. Just please.
Oh my god. So I wrote this song, and as soon as I wrote the chorus, it just kind of came out. And when I write songs, when I sit down to write songs, I don't like write them on a piece of paper and then, write a melody that matches and then no.
And just kind of fool
I
around.
start playing on
until
guitar, and whatever that guitar feels like, that's what I write about. That's what comes out. It's like,
So
okay.
is it usually guitar first, like,
Usually sit down and I start freestyling and I start rhyming words together. One thing that I do constantly all day long is I sing to my dogs and I make up silly songs. So I use their names and I rhyme words. So I'm constantly rhyming on the fly because it keeps my brain sharp with rhymes. So I can write silly songs all the time. And so that's what I started doing. And then, I had this wonderful melody, and these words that fit with that melody that made those notes really shine for me was,
all just
it all just
started
lined
locking
up.
in, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you listen to that song, it's one of those that you're just like, it's like, wow, you feel like you've heard it before because it's got such a
Familiar.
vibe to it. Yeah, yeah, and so
That was with the good ones.
Blank sheet of paper and a cold hard stare. I'm gonna pour more whiskey until I've had my fill. It's been years since I left town. I looked in the mirror and didn't like what I'd found. But did we even have a chance? A shot at real love or true romance. I couldn't do it anymore. I was watching you hold one foot out the door. My broken heart it may mend, but I don't wanna love like this again. Told all of our friends, I let it all out. So I couldn't take it one step back, couldn't turn around. I wanted a love, baby, and I wanted it from you, yeah. I didn't want to walk away, but what was I to do? Did we even have a chance? A shot at real love, a true romance. I couldn't do it anymore, no. I was watching you hold one foot out the door. My broken heart it may mend, but I don't wanna love like this again. Wasting time on a love so cold, yeah. And I thought we would have it all, but I was wrong, so wrong, so wrong. My broken heart it may mend, but I don't wanna love like this again. Don't wanna love like this again. Blank sheet of paper and a cold hard stare. I'm gonna pour more whiskey until I've had my fill.
wrote Yesterday? Was it Paul McCartney? Okay, when he
Scrambled eggs.
wrote it, yeah, Scrambled eggs. When he wrote that song, I think the story is, didn't he walk around town like singing the melody to people? Have you heard this before? Have you heard this before? Because he felt like
'Cause
it
he's
was
worried,
so
yeah.
familiar and it was so
Like
great
he had
that
to
he's
have
like,
stolen it.
I had to have stolen it.
I always love that scene from that movie Crazy Heart, with Jeff Bridges and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Very good movie.
Great movie. But the he's sitting in bed like when he's got his broken leg and just playing a little song, and it's the song that's in that movie. Ryan's I forget his last name. Bingham.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But he's singing that song, and she's like just kind of in and out of the room. And she's like, "Oh, what song is that? I don't know that song." He's like, "Oh, that's how it is with the good ones."
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's how it is with the good ones. And yeah, it's like 3 or 4 chords, and it's the same shit everybody else plays.
Well, I remember seeing that when you first posted it, and I was like going to work in the morning or something like that, and I saw it, or maybe it wasn't the morning. Whenever I saw it, it was, had 50 views or something like that, and I was like, man, she's so awesome. She should really be bigger than this. And then I like came home from work that day, and it was like 10,000 views. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So people saw it.
It went pretty quickly, and a lot of things fell into place for that video to take off so quickly. And I didn't use any promotions other than I posted it on my page and asked people to share. I didn't pay for any marketing or anything like that. So, unsolicited views, it was just, I think it's up to 60,000 now. It's not even over 100, but it just blew up so quickly in a short period of time that the iron was hot. And that's when Warner Brothers, Jeff Fenster from Warner Brothers, who, if you research him, he signed Britney.
Really?
Yeah, so, and I think he worked with Mariah, and he worked with Whitney Houston, all these big ballad girls. And
He hit you up directly?
well, my management team and him spoke. But I eventually did have dinner with him, and we did talk, and, politics prevented that deal from going through.
Politics, just...
Politics to where... Warner signed me to a demo deal, and they gave me a small chunk of money to go in the studio to record demonstration recordings. And one of those was Love Like This Again, and a few other songs that I co-wrote with Zach Malloy, and then one song that Stapleton and Malloy wrote together called I Don't Want to Hear You Say Goodbye. And so I went in and recorded those songs. I'm talking less than a month from when I released that song. I was in the studio, Warner Studio in Nashville.
Up in Nashville, yeah.
Yeah. And they loved it. And they said, okay, well, and this was Warner LA. Okay. So they don't sign country or country related stuff. Usually they have to have Nashville Warner support it.
Sign off on it.
Right. And help us market it, because it's got to be released through their market and then cross over to the LA market, which is what they would handle, right? From what I understand. Don't quote me on this.
I got you. Yeah, but
music business is such a fucking web, okay? So it's okay, we'll have you come to Nashville and play for Warner Nashville in April. So I waited until April.
this was after you
After
already
you had
recorded the
been there.
songs.
After, a few months later, come to Nashville, come play for the Nashville Warner team. Jeff Fenster and LA, they came over, and we had this big meeting in the office there of president of Warner. And I played for them, the staff, and I made them cry. And we ended up playing Chicago songs afterward and jamming out together, and everybody was having a great time. And it was really one of the best I've showcased so many times for labels. Let me tell you, I've done it. Mm-hmm. It's never easy. And this was a ballpark hit for me. I knew I fucking nailed it. I could not have done any better. And I had dinner with Jeff Fenster that night. He's like, no, you couldn't have done any better in that room. It was amazing. Let's go make some records together.
You're on. It's totally
It's
working,
on. It's
yeah.
totally on. Warner Nashville said, she doesn't fit into our box, is what they said.
They actually said that?
They said, she does not fit into our box. It's not what we do.
Jesus, man. That's disheartening.
So LA was like, we just can't lock the deal in without this market, because you would be important in this market. So that market denied me, which made that one completely go, we don't know what to do. And in fact, they never really said no. They just never called us back. My lawyer said it was one of the worst deals ever handled that he'd ever dealt with, and he'd been in the
Really?
business for 30 years, yeah.
They just didn't call you back. Just no, yes. Just
Nothing.
Wow.
Like it was embarrassment, almost.
Yeah,
I
I
mean-
feel like they're running out of good ideas in the modern country music scene. You know,
They have
there's a
one
few
formula,
things that
yeah.
pop up. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's-
into our box.
They're
I mean,
they're desperate for new things.
But they won't accept new because it's not in the formula. It doesn't fit in the formula that they have.
The formula right now is terrible.
I agree with you. But
It's-
but most of America would speak otherwise.
well,
I mean,
every great artist has, broken the formula that happened beforehand, and that's what made
That's
them a
true.
great artist. And then they wrote a new formula around that guy,
Right.
or a girl, and then then they did that for 5 years, and then somebody else came and broke that one. I mean, that's how it
I'm
works.
terrifying.
You are pretty scary. Yeah.
I feel like if they don't have anything exceptional, they revert back to a formula that they know that works, which is what has been happening, and it's soulless and awful. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I can pinpoint a group that's been put together in a second. Like some of these acts, you're like, you two were pieced together because you're not sellable enough separately, and you're like, and you're okay, so you put you together, make some terrible music, and take your shirts off and get some babes in bikinis, and we're gonna sell some records.
To do that same guitar lick.
That's good. Yeah. So you just start writing some stuff like that. We can actually make some hits.
It's funny because when I wrote Love Like This Again, I thought, wow, this is the most ABC song that I've ever fucking written.
It's very classically put together.
Yeah, and
Right.
it, and it
Right.
was
George
so,
Strait song or something. It's like,
when
right.
I sat down and I wrote it for them because I didn't write it for me. I wrote it for them because I'm thinking, I could just sell it. That'd be great, and I'll be fine. I'm just gonna write this one for Nashville. I actually sat down with those intentions for
Right.
that buzz to happen, and it just wasn't. When they saw me perform live, they're like, "You're not really country." So my lie didn't work.
You're not country
because
enough.
I'm so funky and country and weird. It didn't work. I tried to lie, I really did.
God, that's just so crazy that you're not country enough.
No,
Which
not
is
country enough.
Such crap, because I mean, basically you're not pop enough. Is what that's
Not
saying
pop enough.
nowadays.
I'm
I
not
mean,
country enough, and then I'm not Americana enough, which you would think Americana's like the shit change in the bottom of a crappy purse. It's stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else. So
Yeah.
I'm Americana
alt
because I don't
country
have a
or
genre.
Americana, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't fit there either.
Most
Well, I mean,
most of the best people don't fit anymore.
I'm an outsider. Run
Oh, yeah.
away.
Be proud of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So when did that whole deal, I guess you don't, it just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, last summer it just fell apart.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened for a few months, and then a couple of labels were interested just for my team shopping me, sending my stuff around. And that's when I went back in November and I played for New West. I had to pay for my own ticket because they weren't ready to invest $200 yet.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So I had to
That's a
pay for
lot,
my own
yeah.
plane ticket. Yeah. And I had
That
already
is
worked
some
with half
shit.
the artists they have on their roster. They've already released records that I'm on. Okay. And they couldn't even
They
give me
couldn't
$200.
give you
Okay.
a coach ticket.
Nope. I had to crash at a friend's house, which, thanks, by the way, Captain Midnight. I love you, buddy. But, so yeah, I went and played for New West, and they love the songs, but they said that if I weren't willing to pick up and move everything to Nashville, then they couldn't take me seriously.
That you'd have to
I'd have to move
completely
there
relocate and do
to be
it there.
taken seriously as an artist. Are you fucking kidding
And
me?
after you're past with them,
this day and
the
age,
level
yeah.
of commitment that anyone has showed you, I don't blame you for being like, you want me to move everything here? And
Well, they're like, whoa, the inspiration here. And it's like, fuck you. What my inspiration has been a fucking orange grove and a shitty bar and a fucking, whatever, prostitutes in an alleyway. Like, why do you want to strip away shit that I'm inspired by, that I love to be around? Because you want me to be around? Like,
That it might actually be a good idea to get out of Nashville and out of the
Well,
machine that is.
you
probably.
fall into the cesspool, which is the machine, and then since you're always there, well, then you're on the back burner. Well, we'll just, so-and-so's flying in. Sorry, we have to push your appointment to later because you live here now, so you're not going to be a priority because this guy's flying in. He doesn't live here, so we have to. No, that's not. No. Nope.
And the thought that just in this day and age that you would actually have to geographically be somewhere to, that's crazy.
Everything is digital.
Everything's a
Nobody
phone call
even
and an
sits in
email.
the same room anymore.
Yeah.
So I took that as a nice big cop out, as we don't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. They don't know what to do with me.
Well,
I'm
shit.
a freak.
I wish I had a record label and a whole bunch of money on.
Me too.
I would totally sign you immediately. I mean, as long as you can move to Nashville and, you know.
Yeah, lose some weight, stop eating cheesecake.
Be a
What
little-
else have they said?
be a
I
little
don't
bit
even
more country.
fucking know.
Stop
I've
eating
been given
cheesecake.
every excuse you could possibly imagine. I've showcased for probably over 20 labels, and half of them are major labels. And people wait their entire lives for just one of those opportunities. I keep getting them, and they keep telling me no. I'm like, stop wasting my time.
Well, and you're so talented, and
Well,
I mean,
thank you.
there's going to be pictures up of you, you know, stock pictures and whatnot, so people can see that you're obviously not fat. You're a very beautiful woman. Like,
Thank you.
You know, it's just ludicrous.
Yeah, well, you know, I think the world is changing its heart as far as what we consider fat. I mean, the 90s and the early 2000s were ate up with model-sized girls, unfortunately, in the media and the pressure to be that. I think there's still some of that lingering. For me, I've always liked to just hang out where I'm at. I'm not humongous, but I'm not a tiny girl either. I can throw around 60-pound bags of concrete all day, and I feel really good being strong, you know? So I'm okay with where I'm at. I'm okay with it.
That's a good thing, and I mean, it kind of, I mean, I will say that the way that you sing and play guitar is always really cool for me, because it really comes from a place of strength. You can tell that.
It's edgy, yeah.
You can-
a little bit strong. Yeah.
It's strong. Like, it's, you know, I'm not saying that you're belting all the time, or you're like, you know, jamming on the guitar like crazy, but it comes from this like kind of a quiet strength that I think is really cool. And you're such a good guitar player.
Well, listen, that's huge for me, because I was, like I said earlier, I was born with the singing and stuff, but guitar playing I actually had to learn. So when I get compliments on guitar, it's puts me over the moon. So
No,
thank
it's
you.
so cool. I mean, you've got this percussive style that's really unusual.
Being taught
Yeah.
by percussion players, yeah.
Right. You can tell
Rhythm
though.
section,
Yeah, that's good teachers.
Yeah.
For
yeah. Taught by bass players, inspired by bassists, I always thought I should have played drums, but thank you. I really love guitar, and I want to get better at it, so there's always room for growth.
Keep getting better.
Yeah.
Doing pretty good so far.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's another thing. People, I think labels too, when I go play for them, they don't realize that I play. So that's
Right.
always
They
kind
think
of
you're
like,
just strumming to sing.
Well, that's another kind of thing with, I mean, if you will, the female, you know, lead singer country archetype. You know,
isn't typically a player.
You're not like
Yeah.
a strong player. You might hold a guitar once in a while, like Taylor Swift does it.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, you know, there's not that many like strong, you know, guitar players in
Yeah.
that niche that people can't wrap their heads around that, or they don't want to for some reason. But
And very few that have their own style, that have developed a style that's
Exactly.
different from any other.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I could play like Richie Havens, but then I want to play like Ani DeFranco, but then I want to play like David Gilmour. So it's such a fucking clusterfuck of inspiration.
it's so funny because you mentioned the Gilmore thing earlier, and I love that because I never heard that until you mentioned it, and now that I'm thinking about it, I can so
Melodically,
hear the Gilmore thing.
melodically,
Yeah.
it comes out sometimes. I wish I could do some of the shit he does, but it's just not in my wheelhouse yet. I'm sure I'll grow and get there, but considering how far my guitar play has come in just the last 3 years of playing, as much as I do, 20 hours a week, now I understand what practice means and why people should probably practice.
Practice more, right?
It always comes down to that. Those who play the most are often the best.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. The kids who hole up in their rooms when they're kids and nerd out and practice nonstop. Have no social life and are socially inept when they're older, but they can fucking jam. They can't drive a car, but they rip it.
Never had a girlfriend, but
Never
man.
got laid, but wow. I mean, and I thought that's why guys picked up guitars, was to get laid.
Yeah. It's kind of a 50-50 thing.
Yeah.
it's hit or miss.
Hit or miss.
Depends on how cool you are to start with.
Right.
Yeah.
Depends
pick
on
up
if
your
you have
guitar,
any
it's
hope
not
of
gonna
getting
help
laid,
out.
period. You
It
know.
helps, but I mean, it's not going to bridge that gap.
It'll get them into your bedroom, but then what?
Then it's up to you.
And you got to get good before maybe it'll work. I
Wait,
mean,
you're not wearing magnums? And what are you? Wait.
So, so what's the what do you got coming up? Anything you got? I know you still go up and play in Georgia semi-frequently.
I have
right?
a show in Georgia. I'm actually playing with my ex
Oh,
here
really?
soon. Yeah, we played a lot of music together when we were together, and we've kind of bridged that gap into friendship and acceptance, which
always
is
nice.
a huge thing that nobody does anymore.
Oh, that's right.
And then there's this singer in the round thing. We had this Making Music show that we would host every month at Making Music Store, which no longer exists, but people loved that series so much that they've been asking for it to come back. So they're hosting it at the Harley Davidson in Macon, Georgia,
Nice.
on January 28th. And there's going to be Scott Pallett, Vic Stanley, myself, Travis Bryant, and Rhonda Porter, who's going to come. And we're all going to play a bunch of songs. It's going to be all of us on stage doing a kind of songwriter in the round type deal.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to do some songs, and we're going to sing on each other's stuff and kind of, back and
Jam it
forth.
out.
Yeah. And it's a $5 ticket, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I love going there. And, of course, Mike's is going to be there, so it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people will probably buy a ticket just to see that dynamic.
Is it the first time you guys have played together since?
Yes.
Oh,
First time
okay.
we played together since we broke up.
That's
yeah.
big.
Yeah. It's pretty huge. And, I pretty much don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but if you're coming for that reason, I'm not going to treat him any differently other than I won't grab his cock in public. Or behind closed doors. I just won't touch his penis, but I'll treat
Right.
him the same way as I always did. So it's going to be candid and fun. Yeah.
He's
so.
bummed out now.
Yeah. Well, I already told him the same thing. I think he was a little nervous. He's like, kind of nervous about the show. I'm like, don't worry, I'm not going to touch your penis,
It's
but
okay.
everything else is going to be the same. We're going to be the
It's
same.
going to be just the same.
Yeah. He's not going to play with your parts. Dave would probably not be cool with that. I mean, he is a yogi, and he's very accepting
Oh,
of
yeah.
everything.
He's a great
but
guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. Every time I've met him, I've been like,
I like him.
No,
Yeah.
he's a good
Yeah.
egg for sure.
Yeah, the nicest guy.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I've ever had the pleasure of being in front of. So I get to screw him, and I get to pet him when he's naked. I get to feed him. He works on my car for me. It's great. It works out.
That's a solid
winning.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
He actually loaded out all my gear for me last night and drove me home for my gig.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's
Yeah.
You
great.
just found yourself a winner right there. That's
awesome.
that's a
Everyone's got extremely tough competition.
And he plays bass.
And he plays bass. You're all done.
You're done.
You're all done.
Yeah, he can.
Yoga, muscly. He can fix
Muscly,
things.
does splits,
loads out
plays
equipment.
music, yeah,
Loves
cooks
dogs,
really well.
sensitive. We're all done actually.
Dave, you're awesome.
Make clones of Dave so he can
Yeah.
procreate.
My girlfriend's gonna be
Extraordinary-
super pissed at me after this. Don't do any
Wait,
of
no,
that.
they said on the show he cleans, he takes care of
He
the dogs,
does.
he cooks, he can do splits. What are you? Why are you?
Yeah.
Why are you even here?
Well endowed.
Oh,
Magnums.
Whoop.
nice.
Very nice. It works out well.
Hey,
I got a sweet deal.
I heard it matters.
It does matter sometimes. You can't be too big. You can't
Right.
be too small.
That is a thing.
Both ends of the spectrum are not enjoyable.
No. You want to Goldilocks it generally in life. I think
Right.
that's really good advice.
That's the way most things
Yeah.
should be. Right.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Well, I think we had a really nice chat. This was really
Should
fun
we
doing
should
this
we
with you.
touch on should we touch on the thing you're doing tomorrow, or is that
I don't want to talk about it.
okay?
Yeah, I'd rather keep it under wraps because it's in the future, and I don't know much about it.
I think that's a good idea.
Good call.
I think I'm not
We'll
going to
save-
say anything until it's going to be like televised or something.
We'll save
or
that for the
something.
next one.
Yeah.
When you come back and you're super famous.
I'm going to say, it was the worst decision I ever made. I wish you guys would have just locked me in the closet and said, she couldn't make it.
You know,
Why'd you let me do it?
after that didn't work out and I went into my 6-month crack binge, I kind of pulled it together after that. But
Got some good songs out of it though. I tell you what.
God.
Tell you what. That downward
really
spiral, best song.
That downward spiral. Actually, I was in the shower earlier, and I think I'm gonna write this song. It's probably been done already, but I was thinking that actually, thinking puts me in a whiskey drinking state of mind.
oh, that's
There you
good.
go. I like it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's been
Yeah.
done yet, but
that's good. That's how it is with the good ones, right?
that's how it is with the good ones. I don't know.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You definitely can go somewhere with that.
Yeah.
it does. Just that lyric makes me want whiskey.
You know?
Right.
Really,
Yeah. I'm like, too much thinking.
Yeah.
Less of that.
I'm gonna have to sober up before I drive out of here anyway. Awesome.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It has been
Thank
an
you for
absolute
having
pleasure with
me.
Abby Owens.
This has been a lot of fun. Actually, I've done a few radio stuff in my day.
I mean,
but
obviously
this
not
is
as high
the
class
best.
as this.
No, this
no.
is the best. This has been so much fun.
The catering's on its way.
Yeah.
I prefer like Chick-fil-A nuggets,
Okay.
Good call.
you know, some sauce or Zaxby's
Zaxby's is
ranch.
I've actually never been to Zaxby's.
good. Good chicken.
It can't be as good as Chick-fil-A nuggets. Chick-fil-A nuggets are
Wait a minute.
like,
They don't have nuggets. They have like chicken strips, and they make me want. I'm touching myself right now.
oh, yes, you are. I can verify that. Abby Owens is currently touching herself.
Zaxby's.
Think about chicken, I touch myself. Ah. Yeah.
And that's going to be the first song we do.
Yeah,
actually, tonight.
perfect. Zaxby's.
Zaxby's chicken fingers, turning girls on for years.
Actually, this is great. We're going to get Zaxby's to pay for this whole thing now.
We should
Right.
totally get Zaxby's.
Did you
to
know
pay
your
for
chicken
this.
fingers make people feel sexual?
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
That's a new thing, yeah.
It makes me want to choke that chicken.
All right, I think we should end. Yeah, we should end on a high
We're not going
note.
to do any better than that. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, guys. If I were the cheating kind, I'd lie awake at night, wait for you to fall asleep so I can turn my wheels. I'd pay more attention to my hair, hide all of my underwear, keep a straight face with my fingers crossed on my back. If I were the cheating kind, you wouldn't know like everyone else. You wouldn't know that there was nothing left when you looked in my eyes. I'd fool around with some of your friends. I'd come back home again and lay down next to you at night, and I would sleep just fine. If I were the cheating kind. If I were the cheating kind, well, baby, it would blow your mind. Just how good of a liar I could be, yeah. I'd whisper sex in your ear, and then I'd hold you oh so near. Leave you right naked all alone on the floor in tears, yeah. If I were the cheating kind, you wouldn't know like everyone else. You wouldn't know that there was nothing left when you looked in my eyes. I'd fool around with some of your friends. I'd come back home again and lay down next to you at night, and I would sleep just fine. If I were the cheating kind, yeah. If I were the cheating kind, maybe you'd feel better, baby, 'cause you wouldn't be the only one in shame. 'Cause baby, you're the cheating kind, and I didn't know like everyone else. I didn't know that there was nothing left when I looked in your eyes, yeah. You fucked around with all of my friends, yeah. You brought it back home again and laid down next to me at night, and you slept just fine. 'Cause you're the cheating kind.